Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Echoes in Exile, where me, Spooker HD, and Barricade are going to sit down and discuss some new thoughts and topics about 0.3, which launches less than 24 hours from now, theoretically.
Huge. Yeah.
So let's just dive right in. My first question to you is, What is your plan for start tomorrow?
Okay, so thank you for the question. Good to be here again today. So just to give a little bit of context, I was moving the whole week before. Like I missed the last league launch. So I'm going to kind of take that question. I'll answer it in 2 seconds, but I got to give some context. So every league launch has been misaligned with my personal life, unfortunately for me. So I'm just kind of playing a little bit of catch up. I have good information. I'm aware of what I'm going to do. I have a game plan, and that's unfortunately been a little bit halted because of me moving. I've literally been moving my entire family, my stream studio. This is all new. It's the first piece of content from the new setup. So it sounds a little bit different. That's why. That being said, I've been taking in as much data as I can from all the different content creators out there. Whatever Path of Exile has been posting, I've been trying to check it out. It's possible that some stuff slipped through the cracks because I've been living my life. So that being said, I'm going to be playing a Blood Mage again, I believe. I don't think that Blood Mage got worse, but they did something interesting in the Ascendancy tree that is a little bit suspect. It's interesting that we all get Sangomancy for free, but I want to try a Blood Mage Hollow Palm Flicker Strike build is what I want to do. So that's where I'm at. I've got a community build for that. Yep. And so there's a lot of other ways to go with it. You can go Invoker Monk. You can go Deadeye. If you're going to go Flicker Strike, it doesn't make a lot of sense for that. I want to make sure Flicker Strike can annihilate things. Like I want the room to be melted. I want bosses to be just absolutely vaporized. I'm going to be heavily reliant on some of what I think is going to be difficult to obtain new unique jewels, right? Those legendary gems that allow us to invert the resistance of things. And before we do that, we use Choir of the Storm to ignore the resistance. So there's tiers to this game. There's levels to this shit. And I'm kind of interested to see, does this even scale? Like, I don't need to follow the Deadeye meta, which maybe we could talk about today. I want to do something different, and I want it to have impact. And just like they said before, Spark was dead. Spark was one of the most comfortable builds I played in Dawn of the Hunt. So, tennis ball back at you. What are you doing?
So, two things that I have constantly heard over and over in almost every video and everything that I've listened to. One, Warrior bad yet again. Why?
How?
I don't know. And two, Kitava just got creamed, right? Smith of Kitava got changed, right? Because they removed the whole elemental aspect from Smith of Kitava, which is what made Smith of Kitava good. It made it easy to achieve 90% max res on all three reses, right? So they removed that. And I think they even removed some max elemental res off the tree. Is from what I heard, that may not be true. I'm not 100% sure on that one. But so that was like this. Oh boy, this is down memory lane. Because what did I do when we started that whole hardcore journey? It was like, all right, everybody said warrior bad, armor bad. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do warrior, and I'm going to do an armor-based warrior. So I think I'm going to do that same road again, just because I did enjoy it, and it was nice to actually prove a lot of people wrong, which obviously later down the road, we had several crazy warrior builds that just came out and shined, one just destroying all content in the game easily.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people seem to, I shouldn't say this in general, but it feels like there's a lot of hatred towards Warrior, and I don't know where it comes from, because I guess if your goal is to beat the game, it can do that. If your goal is to beat like the Arbiter of Ash Pinnacle boss, hardest difficulty, it can do it. Yes, there's more mechanics. Maybe the DPS isn't there. Hammer of the Gods was a big prevalent reason as to why you could just donkey punch these bosses and move along with your day, but it can do it. So does it do it as well as some of these other OP busted builds? No. I just think the scales are a little bit heavy. Like if warrior doesn't absolutely conquer the content, it's just F tier. It's like, what about the class fantasy? What about that? Like, you know, like what about wanting to wield a big two-handed mace, scaling the damage tremendously? Like, that's fun for people, right? I guess it depends on your goals. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a big one too, though. The whole two-handed mace. Like, we took that special node got nerfed.
Golem's Blood?
No, not Golem's Blood. The Titan something where you can wield a two-handed mace and a shield.
Yeah.
Giant's Blood.
Trying to pull it up right now.
Giant's Blood.
Yeah, Giant's Blood Key passive now halves the amount of life granted by
Halves the
strength.
life. And we already struggle with life. We don't get life on the passive tree. But with 150-ish plus minus nodes coming to the passive tree, that might change. I don't see that being the case, but it's potentially possible there might be some more ways to make up. I think Darth Microtransaction was going over this, and he said you're roughly losing about 600 to 650 HP, flat life. So if we can make that amount of life up and still take that node, then it's still a win, I guess. But I think I'm going to go down. I know when all this came out, I was like, okay, I'm going to do Warrior. I love the showcase and the live reveal, right? I'm going to do Warrior. And I haven't 100% determined if I'm actually going to go Smith Katava, but I think I might, just because I want to try out if they've done any changes to the tree nodes and its other passives, not necessarily the armor, because to armor stack for the whole elemental hits against armor, we don't know how that algorithm works.
We do know how that works.
I don't know how that algorithm works. Let me correct that.
It's not good at all. It's not good at all.
Correct. And that's the word that's going around, which I've heard controversy from a few different mathematician PoE players. So
are you suggesting the arithmetic review was not accurate?
I'm not suggesting that it's either accurate or inaccurate. I'm just saying that I've personally seen a few different perspectives as to how it's going to be calculated, just as same as the whole new deflection mechanic, which actually is a great lead into what do you think about the new deflection mechanic, and do you think it's good or bad?
So it seems insane. It seems like, here we go. It's a very defensible, ideal situation for evasion. You either completely ignore the attack, and when you subsequently incur the penalty of an attack, you take 40% off the top, then you resist whatever's left. It's like, what? It just seems to be such a strong boon to the character that I do feel needs it. I've been killed by a one-shot to Jamonra before. It wasn't a one-shot, it was actually a two-tap, but I thought it was a one-shot because I just didn't evade the attack. And so if I would have at this point taken 40% less damage because of that, I would have survived. My hardcore character would have been okay. So the long-winded answer is I think it's really, really good. Borderlining on too strong for evasion, which is already a very effective way to play this game. Evasion is just delicious, and so giving it almost more reduction than armor does, just is how it seems to me. Just seems imbalanced defensively. It just seems too good, and so subsequently, if I make a Blood Mage who's going to recover 4% of, or is going to recover 25% of damage over 4 seconds when incurred hits happen, and then I get 40% more damage of things I don't evade, I'm tanky as hell. And then I have Oloroths, like, I'm good to go. I'm not going to say that I'm an impregnable tank, but it just seems so good that it's almost, I'm not going to say Grim Feast, it's almost crazy not to cap that out. What do you think?
I've watched a few videos. I actually just recently learned of Dream Quarry. Surprise. Never heard of him before. Janus actually brought this to my attention. I think he did a video on armor as well, which I haven't watched yet. But the video that he did on deflection, he went over the whole mathematics and broke it down to where we're not really sure how easy it is going to be able to obtain that quote unquote 100% chance to deflect, right? So it might take a lot more investment than worth it. Although flat 40% damage reduction, how is that not worth it? So it's
40%.
Yeah, 40%. I mean, it's crazy that they would. tie it to it. Well, no, it's not crazy that they would tie it to evasion, but it's crazy that they would give it that ginormous amount of basically just flat DR if you can cap it, right? So, and according to what we believe is the math, is that depending on the nodes that are added in the tree, the 150-ish nodes that we still don't know about, which we're hopefully will get word tonight. I'm
because the data miners got to work. Yeah, sure.
Exactly. If not data miners, they GGG did post a reply at one point saying we can't release the tree until the website's updated, and that take it with a grain of salt as you please, but you know, a lot of times that means that they want to give us this information, but they're not going to do it until the website's ready, which is understandable.
Sure.
So I think that it's not going to be very, like, it's going to take a lot of investment, but I think it will be a worthwhile investment to reach that maximum 100% chance to deflect. But my concern is that it might make evade one of those, like, now I must go evade until energy shield just gets removed from the top of the hill. There
is a whole set of base classes that would have to really go out of their way. I'm talking about like warrior, things like that, that would really have to go out of their way to even try to appreciate evasion builds outside of the gear that they get to enjoy. And that just doesn't make sense. Like, they're just not going to do that because they would just lose so much of the class fantasy and obvious skill choices on the passive tree, even with all these new clusters of powers and stuff being added. So if it is the case, you're essentially just going to see a meta that is pure Deadeye because it naturally rolls into evasion. It naturally gets to enjoy some of these new benefits of the keystones like Hollow Palm. It just makes sense that this, I'm going to say this quadrant on the right side of the tree is just superior based off of the skill tree nodes that they get access to. And so to counterbalance that, it almost seems like the warrior needs some really powerful stuff, and it just got hit for 600 life loss. Like, what? And then this armor value that you got, it's just like you're shaving 5 damage off of a 50 damage hit. Like, if that, it's like, that doesn't make sense. So I would expect some balancing there. I know I'm kind of going down the rabbit hole here, but it sounds like you both kind of agree. Like, deflection, even if it's heavy investment, it's ridiculous, and it's worth probably pursuing that. But the other thing to talk about, when you want deflection, you want it to stop the one shots, but your damage is generally high enough anyway that you're just annihilating the map, right? And so where you're dying is like a boss mechanic that you maybe could have dodged potentially, or not. Like, sometimes there's that off-screen hit that just claps you. That one, maybe this stops that. Maybe that's worth the investment. That's what I need to wait to see. I don't know that the balance of investment for deflection is worth it, or even required, is a better way to say it, because you can obliterate the content with the power surge that these new evasion-based archetypes are going to enjoy, is what it just seems like. So I think that's a wait to see, and I don't think that there's another reason. I can't think of a reason right now talking to you that I wouldn't want to invest in deflection anyway. Even if it was expensive, it'd be like the way to cap it, maybe.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And I think, I don't know if this is going to be a fix for the pyramid of defenses that we have, you know, being armor, evasion, and energy shield. But it is another layer of defense that the community has been asking for since launch, which is nice. So, you know, like, I think the best way that I can put it is, it's basically spell suppression, but for everything. But it's tied to evasion, which I think was a potential mistake, or they believe it to be a mistake, that with the spell suppression system in PoE 1, because it is accessible by everybody, and they kind of wanted it to be, I think that was their idea, was they wanted it to be more for the evasion classes. Because if you look on even in PoE 1, the skill tree, a lot of the spell suppression nodes are in the evasion, the dex evasion area.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. So, I don't know. We'll see. This is one of those, I really believe this is one of those situations where I have to try it, and then I have a really good opinion. Right now, it's pure speculation. And I totally think it's worth investing in that new mechanic just to see how it feels with the content, whatever that's going to be, the archipelago and all that good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, which is exactly why I'm going to go down the armor route, and I'm going to test that armor versus elemental.
I would love for you to, like, make me eat my words. I love for you to be like, you know what, I went all in, and it's great. Like, you feel the difference. That would be ideal. That would be the system working in my mind. Yeah.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And I mean, I will definitely let you know. Yeah, you'll hear my
Yeah.
words one way or the other.
Awesome. Can't wait.
um, so I will definitely be going down the armor with elemental, and we'll test that. I didn't exactly finish my route because I don't really know exactly what I'm starting. I'm kind of like on the same level as you, but I know that I want to do a warrior something something fire. That's about as far as I know.
Warrior something something fire. Okay. There's a new mechanic coming out, and I'm a little bit aloof with all the
Mhm.
moving, so I'm forgetting the terminology, but I think they're called remnants. And so the idea that maybe your fire warrior could become a remnant fire warrior, where you obliterate the screen, pick up these remnants, overcharge a skill, and let rip with this another one. This other
Mhm.
skill could be like the thing. It's not something I hear a lot about online. I keep hearing about Deadeye. And if that's the build you experiment with, that's really exciting. If it's not, that's too bad. But there could be some legs there.
Yeah, most definitely. So, was there any other potential starters that you had outside
Yeah,
of what you were thinking now?
yeah. There was Cold Bow, so there was a Deadeye. It was before it was Deadeye. I was looking at Deadeye right away, and I saw that I wanted to go double freezing salvo. I wanted to do like this whole um, ice shards into freezing salvo, perma lock a boss, get ready for that snipe shot and blow him away. Basically, it was perfect strike for range. I thought that was fantastic. Looked really, really good. Then I found out you can't use two freezing salvo anymore, but you can use all the other support gems with it. So I said, okay,
Yep.
well, that just makes poison really, really interesting to me because we weren't able to stack poison that way, and now we can. That's got to be amazing. Like that damage creep is just that power creep is really high. I would imagine. So I was looking at a poison ranger. I was looking at an ice bow build, and then we talked about, like I said, Blood Mage Spark. I think Blood Mage Arc is also very good, simply because Arc is now a projectile skill, and
Yep.
when Arc becomes a projectile skill, right, we can do a lot of damage with that. We can have additional projectiles go out, which mean additional arcs going out, which means all the extra chaining happening could be just insane. Like already the Spark Blood Mage that we made previously in Dawn of the Hunt, that was running T4 Zesh pretty comfortably on a pretty small budget, I would say, and all the power boons that have been afforded to that since are enticing anyway. So that was basically my realm there. Is I wanted to go with like an Invoker Monk, staying with Ice Strike, and then I thought the Poison Bow, Ice Bow, and then this Blood Mage Hollow Palm. When they showed that, it's like I gotta try that because I wanted to make like that Nightcrawler fantasy of like flickering around with my hands and like ripping things apart. And I couldn't figure out how to get there. So I started looking around, and ultimately that one sounded like the most interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing Warrior, though. Warrior didn't really pop off for me.
I mean, it's understandable. A lot of people don't like the warrior, and I think the biggest downside of the warrior is the mace skills are just slower attacks, which is understandable. And I think that's probably why warrior gets a lot of hate, is because they're restricted to the only melee weapon in the game right now, because we still have axes to come, we got swords to come, we got flails to come, which I think will open up the warrior to be much more viable, because it's basically we got Titan, Warbringer, and Katava, and it's either totems with Warbringer of some sort, right? And then Titan, which I was considering doing a Titan minion build, because minions are just crazy. And I think that if you path up far enough, depending upon the nodes along the way, you could hit a
Sure.
lot of minion nodes and get double effect via the Titan ascendancy. So we'll see. Again, it's one of those we need the passive tree so that we can
This
kind of
is
do a little bit of.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. This is one of the most diverse leagues, or I guess diverse moments for Path of Exile 2's builds right now than it's ever been. And even Witch Hunter gets 100 new weapon points, so it's like 124 in total.
Two
So
whole separate builds you can do with that ascendancy.
that's not really true, but yes,
How
and
how so?
okay, because if you're going to spend 124 points on build one, that means you likely invested in jewel slots. You likely invested in keystone passive points. And so that's what build one, like of two on the character, needs to function.
Right.
If you set the other 124 points up for weapon set two and you don't use the jewel slots or you don't choose those same key passives, you don't get those benefits. They're just gone. You have to consistently marry those two. There has to be a union there. And so it's to suggest that it's two vastly different trees. I just disagree. I could
Right.
totally see a situation where like maybe I want to use one for like movement speed or curse application or mark appreciation. Like that makes a lot of sense to really bolster up the main damage version. That's probably what I think is going to happen, but I'd love to be wrong on this. It just seems like that's it, in my opinion. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't necessarily disagree. When I heard that too, that it's keystone passes and jewel slots are stuck, like you have to take them on both trees. It still gives you a lot of flexibility. When I was looking at the tree, it was a day or so ago. There's the crazy thing. GGG is working and adjusting the patch notes every day up to the very last minute. They just added a few more patch notes. I don't know if it was earlier today or last night, their typical time. And I think there was some skill. I think it was Sniper's Mark ended up
becoming not a spell.
Something, and it was like, why? What was
yeah,
going
marks
on
are
there?
no okay. So marks are no longer a spell. So you can't cast on crit. You can't use cast on crit. Voltaic mark.
Gotcha.
You can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And so that's how you can't spread the fun to all the friends, and that doesn't happen anymore. So that is paradigm shifting in and of itself. I think the problem, just to quickly circle back and then we can move along. The problem with Warrior Ascendancy is that I'm so damn slow. Why the hell do I want to be slow when I could just be ice skates and slide around the screen, even with like sprint or not? I don't understand. Like I do enjoy when I played Titan Quest 2, the first thing I did is I picked up a big ass weapon and I smacked something in the face with it and I made him spit chiclets. Like it felt fantastic. I like that. I appreciate that. When I played Diablo 2, my first character was a Barb. I was like, actually, it was a Necromancer. Then I loved Lance Barb for PvP. But I like doing that. But in Path of Exile 2, I just don't understand why I would stick with something that takes 3 seconds to clear the screen when I'm doing this thing with half a second with a spell. And maybe that's why, like now that I'm 41, I just like easy. I hold down one button and I just fly forward. Like I think that's kind of where I'm at now. And then the min-maxing of perfect rotation on animations is not where I'm at. I'd love to get back in there, but I just don't feel the synergy as well. And I hate being stuck on the screen when I don't have to be,
Yeah.
I look
agree.
like a badass warrior. My guy's screaming his head off and we're unearthing things. It just doesn't sizzle yet. And I'm waiting for that sizzle.
I agree, and I think new weapon types will bring that sizzle, not being stuck into the big slow. That, and I think not number wise, I'm not sure, but I think once maces get into the right point, which I think bringing the other weapon classes into the game will give them a streamline balance to each other, where the mace is going to be slower, but it's going to hit harder than the axes or the swords, right?
As it should, right?
Absolutely, and that makes sense. So yeah. I think we'll just have to see and wait for that to come so that we can actually compare the two together. And I think that's probably their struggle, is they can't really buff or nerf maces too much now because they don't have any comparable weapons to base them off of. No baseline, I guess you could say. The mace is the baseline.
I think all the weapons are in the game already. I think they're working on animations, they're refining that. I could envision playing a Titan using Gianor's sword skills, right? Where he does the charge, he does like the swipe. I could see that class fantasy being a two-hand. I could see that. And so it's in the game now, it's just being refined. So we'll wait and see what happens. But oh, here comes the dog. Hey, big guy. That's what I think is going to happen. I think that we just have to wait and appreciate the feeling of it and balancing. I think they're there. It's just more testing, internal testing.
Yeah, and they've already said straight up themselves is that the biggest thing holding them back in a lot of things are animations and getting them right. They want swords to be hit perfect. Druid. Yep. They canceled the Druid for this drop because they want to get it right, and I'm still excited for the Druid. Speaking of Druid and no class dropping in 0.3, we kind of touched this topic in the last episode, and we all came to the agreement that we were okay with no class as long as the content they're bringing is enough. So now that we've had their live drop and the amount of content that's kind of coming, we have a ballpark figure of exactly what's coming to the game. Do you think or feel that it it is enough to hold or win people over with no race or no class, not race, no new class coming?
Depends on what you mean by enough. Because if enough is plenty of endgame activities to do, I don't think they move the meter stick too much on that. If we're talking about itemization, yeah, for sure, because in addition to this new abyssal mechanic of adding that to gear, in addition to all the uniques that were going to be added in all the different, how do I just, in addition to all of that, we also got a whole new trade system. And how that trade system is going to feel was something I want more than a new class. So I just get that now. So was it enough? I mean, I'm still running the Atlas. I'm still fighting the Arbiter. I'm still going to fight a new Pinnacle boss. I'm still running the same old Breach maps. I'm still wearing the same Breach rings, likely. So that's all okay. I'm still in early access. Is it enough to keep me around for 2 whole months? You betcha. Like, yep, and that's fine. And then I'll go into Path of Exile 1, or I'll be having so much fun in Path of Exile 2 that I don't want to leave. So for me, did they add enough? They added a shit ton compared to everybody else putting out the ARPG stuff right now. They put out a ton. Is it enough for you? Let me know.
No, I'm actually on the same boat, just floating along. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm super ready for tomorrow to be here. I actually I could just turn this off, go lay down and sleep tomorrow day away if I had to, or if I could, obviously. But I think that they did a phenomenal job, and with them cutting the Druid class, which is that's what they said, that was the class they were working on to get out for 0.3. The news of them cutting the Druid class, I felt it, but at the same time, I totally understand, because if you're going to add something brand new to your series, your game series, you want to get that thing right. And I think that they're going to do that. I think they're going to do that with the hints and the notes. DM, when he went over to GGG headquarters, he didn't get a chance to play Druid. At least that's what he says. We don't really know, right? We just know what he tells us.
That's not always the same thing. Yeah. Okay,
well, you just never know.
Yeah.
But with that being said, he did say that he got to see a lot of Druid gameplay and footage and things like that. And he says that he thinks that us PoE lovers are going to enjoy it, because they're doing some crazy, awesome shit with that character.
Imagine the other side of the coin. He sees the Druid, and he thinks we're all gonna hate it. That doesn't really work as well. So I'm not surprised to hear that. But yeah, I think you could say the same thing about a Shadow. You could say the same thing about a Marauder. You could say the same thing about a Templar. There's nothing you could say, I don't think, when it comes to a class that I wouldn't be like, yep, I want to try it. Everything they're adding, I like so far. I gave this some thought when I was moving over here. I was like, I can't think of a single, there's obviously things that I would like to change in the game or I'd like to see added, but what they're adding, I'm happy with. It only makes the experience I'm having better. And so, Druid, I'll wait. They'll get it right. They'll get it right in time, and we move along. It's just another awesome thing in the game. More ascendancies, all that jazz. Can't wait.
Yeah, no, most definitely. I think talking about the other things that they're bringing in, you brought up the trade system, which I am so happy, but kind of sad at the same time. And I see that look, and I'm gonna answer.
Oh,
that
I can't wait to hear how you're sad about this. Go ahead.
So I am.
Can you start with the sad?
Yeah.
Tell me why you're sad.
Sure. Yeah. I'm sad because I love it. I love the idea, but the way they're going about it just feels almost like a cash grab. And I hate to say that about GGG, because you don't get one, right? To start, you have to convert your tab, right? Or you have to buy them, right?
Okay.
So for players that are already there, I have to give up a stash tab I already have to gain a merchant tab, right? And you cannot use quad tabs. Yeah. You're converting a premium regular tab into a merchant's tab.
But you already bought that tab and you're already using it to trade. That's all you're doing.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe, right? Maybe you're using it to
Let's
trade.
talk about you. Not like general. You bought a tab, you assigned it as a trade tab, and that's what it does.
Well,
Right?
it's a premium tab, right? I bought them as premium so that I could trade out of them, but I don't necessarily want to. So now I have to make the choice.
Yeah, sure.
Well, that's my thought, though. Now I have to make the
get-
choice. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, but you bought it with the intention of trading with it. The benefit outside of that was that you could store other stuff in it if you didn't want to make it a trade tab.
Right.
I totally get it. A cash grab? No, I don't think so. I get the perspective. I just don't agree.
You still have to buy them, right? Oh, I mean, you have to buy premium tabs too, but yeah.
You're going to buy them anyway. Like you would have bought them anyway.
Oh, me? Absolutely. Absolutely. Not hands down.
People who want to trade bought premium tabs generally for the purpose of trading anyway. The non-quad tab one sucks. I'll give that up. That's a kick in the nuts. But okay, like that's just a dump tab for mapping now. Okay. I think this. First of all, that was 50%. You said you like it too, though. Why?
Oh, I love it. I love it. Being able to.
How the hell can you love something you don't like?
No. I love the concept. I just don't love the fact that now I have to choose whether I want to give up a stash tab for it, or whether I want to use the merchant tab for it, right?
Okay.
Now, in a sense,
yeah, sure.
right, I could store stuff in my merchants tab, just overprice it, right? And if somebody wants to buy that overpriced item, hey, cool, I win, right? Win-win.
Sure.
But
sure.
Anyways, the idea of being able to say, hey, I want to sell this item, but I'm not going to be on for the next 15, 16 hours. And I know it's a good item that will sell, that maybe in the next 15, 16 hours, the game might change, right? And that item may no longer be wanted. Likely, unlikely, who knows? It doesn't matter. The market is constantly ever fluxing, one way, this way, that way. Content creators are a very big impact on what we're buying, all that stuff. So being able to sell that item in the time where I cannot play, huge W both
That's
ways.
The game changer I'm talking about.
Yeah, both ways. I absolutely love that for that. The system itself is 100% a total win in my eyes. I just don't like having to make the choice.
I understand. So here's how I look at it, and it's fine. Path of Exile 2 Early Access is not a free-to-play game right now. We're all paying money to get in there early unless someone gave you a copy for free. No problem. As like a human approach, and if it's financially viable, I believe the company's done enough work that I think it's worth it to buy those tabs. I think the developers, the artists, the animators, the creative team, I think they deserve to get my whatever it is, $20 to buy those merchant tabs. Path of Exile, even one, we can all say it's a free-to-play game, and it's true, but it also isn't. Like, you kind of need to get in. You kind of have to buy some stuff to enjoy the quality of life. So you're going to spend that money anyway, or the game isn't for you, and that's okay, right? Like, the only way the game is really free, in my opinion, is if you played it, you hate it, and you got out, cost you nothing. If you play it and you get to maps, it's like Shang Tsung, right? Their soul is yours. Like, your soul is theirs, excuse me. Like, it's over. So I know you don't like the choice. I don't necessarily love the choice, but I will sacrifice 2 to 3 tabs when we go just to try it and see what happens. And I'm sure I'm going to love it, and I won't care. I won't care in a month.
Oh, I absolutely agree. That was just the one of the two downsides, obviously not being able to use a quad tab, which it's not really a big deal to me. I just dump it anyways.
Yeah, and to our viewers and listeners, like, you just have to be kind of aware, because you might list something that's really, really good, and you underprice it because that's just how the system is now. And that thing that was worth 10 divines, you sold for 10 C or 10 exalts, and like, oh, you lost out. That's very well going to happen. The live search inside the trade, whether you're using in-game or not, like, you can still use the old system. Live active search is going to happen. People are going to be scraping up all kinds of cheap gear and reselling it for the right value. That's going to happen. Just try to defend yourself before you put something there. Be patient, enjoy it, and don't get scammed is what I would say. It's what I'm going to try to do. And I can only hope the same for others.
Yeah, and I will say this on that topic. Do yourself a favor. You as the listener and anybody that's tuning in, do yourself a favor. If you're going to use the merchant tab system, take the extra minute or two, price check the item. Go to the trade site if you have to. Use
Yeah.
your overlay, whatever program you're using to price check. Take a little bit of extra time to just price check it before you put it in that tab, and you should be fine. You know, it's a win-win because even without the merchant trade system, people still sold stuff for cheap. You know, so just take that extra precaution. You know, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I found, you know, a 5-10 div item for 25-50C, and you know, it's no different than who messaged him first, right? You know, so same difference. So if you don't want to feel like you get scammed for selling an item too cheap, just take the extra minute, do the research, find the price, and you should be good to go.
Sure. Good point.
Is there anything?
What do you think about the?
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I'm getting some fubby connection here. What'd you say?
No, you're good.
I was going to go to the next topic here. Just bring it up. Crafting. The new bases, these new superior bases, and crafting from white items with these new perfect augmentations and things like that. Setting a minimum item level to guarantee like at least tier 3, tier 2. No, I think it's tier 3 and 4 magical bases into like perfect regals and stuff. I think it's not too much for a new player to get their teeth sunk into. I think it's not too much to bridge the gap between 2 and 1, Path of Exile 2 and 1. And if this is the first podcast you're hearing, there wasn't a lot of ways to interact with the items you found off the ground, and these new tiered items coming out, while it's more items in your inventory, it's the right kind of items you want to take a piece of gear, in my opinion, and make it really your own so that you can make that item journey a little bit more complete instead of just crossing your fingers with Exalt slamming and hope you hit something nice with a Recombinator. I think this is quite a delightful update. I think it's going to give me that 2 months of enjoyment that I want. Without this crafting, I really don't know that they had enough content to keep me invested, like without this, because items are just items, and there's chase support gems that I'm going to want to get, and that would be quite a bit of time there as well for every character I play. But crafting, finally, I think is exciting, and the ability to easily trade that with the merchant tabs just brings it all together in this happy little, again, union of mechanics and systems. So I think you're of the camp as well, right? Like, this is good for the game, and I don't think it's too heavy for a new player, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's not really, they're not bringing in like complex system, right? They're just adding on to the base system that we already have, just different. We get to use these different levels of currency, right? So
that's right.
Now yep. I'm not going to feel bad exalting my level 23 item that I'm wearing because it's going to make it better, and I know this exalt isn't going to be the best for a later end game craft because I'm going to want to try and secure that tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 affix on that higher level item. So I think it's absolutely great.
And it was a minor thing that I caught right away. We're not really talking about this yet, but of all the new currency types like perfect, XYZ, augmentation, transmutation, whatever, it's not always the same base item level. And I think I don't know which one it was, and I apologize because again, life's been crazy, but one of those items does not always produce a level, I think it's level 70 modifier. I think it's a 55 or something like this. So there is a bit of a gamble here that you don't always guarantee a high range of the modifiers. I'm not sure which item that is, but make sure you do your due diligence to check that out. And it's something that's on my radar. I just have to fine tune that and get that dialed in, but it's nice. It's better. Just be aware of that. Like if you're trying to make that base, check out the minimum value it can produce because you might be adding on like a T6 mod when you think you're getting T3. You just got to look into that. And websites like PoE2DB.tw is and maybe you could, a little request for you, right, Spooker? You could put that in the video description here.
Yeah.
That website will list all the modifiers for every kind of gear in the game. So if you get into crafting or building your item, that's something that you're going to want to know, and it's only going to make you a better player.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love it. I think quivers were one of the bases because I'm pretty sure that quivers have a lower level required for some of the higher tier rolls on them. But I'm sure there's more than that, and that might be something that changes due to this new currency edition, right?
So that's not what I was talking about, but maybe you're right. So what I was talking about was things like Greater Orb of Augmentation, Perfect Orb of Augmentation, when those items are used on a piece of gear now going forward, they
Right.
will always guarantee a minimum modifier of like level 55, as an example. But one of them, and it could be like, I'm not sure which, it could be the Regal Orbs, it doesn't guarantee that 70. It guarantees a 55. So your magical modifiers are really good, but the second that you take it to rare, all of a sudden it has a chance to be kind of cud. But if you get a good rare one, like it stays 3, then you exalt slam to modify that even
Gotcha.
more. That's what I meant
Okay.
to say. Not so much the item base itself like a quiver. Yeah.
Gotcha. That makes sense
But
too, though. Yeah.
yeah, yep, yep. And so outside of that, everything they're adding, big fan. The one thing that I'd like to see added to the game that we didn't get, and I don't even think we're anywhere close, nor should we be, because the game has to be fully developed, tested, played by everybody, is PvP. Guild purpose and PvP. In Path of Exile 1, the Hall of the Grand Masters was something you could do, you could fight, but I would really love to see a Coliseum style event where you get exclusive cosmetics, guild benefits, things like that. Diablo 4 didn't really give us that to name drop. Last Epoch, I don't believe is a great PvP scene. Diablo 2 absolutely did. It was very vibrant, very fresh, very exciting. And I'm waiting for this next, I know No Rest for the Wicked, next ARPG is going to do it. I don't know if that's the one where I go for PvP or if Path of Exile 2 will offer that. But that's one thing that I'd love to see in a modern ARPG. Once we're all geared to the nines and everybody's having fun and we've all helped each other out and we're all just like Colossus in the world of Rayclass and there's like not much left to do before we exit. It'd be cool to just fucking fight. Just throw a spear to guys at a friend's face and see how he takes that damage, you know?
I completely agree. And honestly, that was probably some of the most fun times that I had during my lifespan of Diablo 4. And I still love Diablo 4. I will still continue to play Diablo 4 when they bring me something that I will enjoy. With that being said, they did great at the beginning because there was fairly good, diverse PvP builds that's like, yeah, of course, there's always going to be a meta. Like that's just a thing in action RPGs. It's always going to be there. But again, that would be awesome if GGG did give us some new Path of Exile side PvP in some manner or another. That would be great. I would welcome it. It would be awesome.
There's something special that happens when you do PvP, right? As an example, like when you do PvP, you understand what itemization is even more, and you actually start looking for things maybe different than you would against PvE, player versus everything content. So a person who engages that kind of content, they suddenly know, or they start to appreciate more about what modifiers actually do against certain targets that have capped res, capped DR, perfect deflection. Like, you know what could maybe do better in those scenarios, which will only serve to help you against regular game content. And so oftentimes in Diablo 2, you'd have your PvP set, you'd have your PvE set, and that was exciting to try to min-max that. And then, you know, you go up against an opponent that's like actually a tank, has a shitload of life regen, and you don't know how to kill him. Like, there's a way, we just have to figure out what that is. And again, as a player of that experience, you want to go find those items, and it sort of extends the enjoyment beyond just clearing the campaign again. And I think that would only serve to make this game better once all the classes, all the ascensions are in, and all that jazz, you know? I think that might be kind of fun. And then doing team-based PvP, how those synergies work with the classes, like there's such a library of wealth there that we could tap into if we decide to go that way. So that's the one thing I didn't get. I don't expect to see it. Hope it shows up eventually, but that's down the road.
I agree.
Is there something you want, like in the game, that you don't have yet? One thing you could add?
It's hard to say because like there's so many. I can't say there's so many. There's really not a huge variety of action RPGs out there. There is several that I do enjoy, but generally speaking, I have the systems that I want in different action RPGs, if that makes sense. You know, if, for example, if I want to go just play a game and just kill stuff in whatever manner, way, shape, or form I want to without having to research, 17 books of research papers, I turn on Last Epoch and I can just have fun. It's a very good, casual, friendly, very intuitive game that teaches you everything and anything you want to know about it, right? If I want to go into the more complex, diverse, I go turn on PoE 1. There's 10 million different ways to skin a cat, and I have to choose one of them and figure out down which route I want to go, or PvP, right? Right now, I think No Rest for the Wicked is working on their PvP, and I'm excited for that. But like you said, Diablo 2 just did such a phenomenal job. I still find myself to this day logging in occasionally and going and finding that, low-level dueling or high-level PvP. In fact,
I'm not.
It was
I'm glad you are.
It was a couple weeks ago. I took my Sork into PvP, and we were all just having fun, and I was killing this paladin, right? And of course,
what kind of Sork was it? Was it a Blizz Sork?
It was a Blizz Sork. Yeah, it was a Blizz Sork.
Okay.
And we were trading back and forth, and I would kill him, he would kill me, I would kill him, and then he went back to town. He was in town for like 2 minutes, and he came back out, and I did no damage to him after that. And I was like, "What the hell did you take?"
He kicked your ass. Yeah, he had enough of you. Yeah. It's cool. That speaks exactly what I was saying, right? That guy did that. He reacted to a scenario. He had to farm to get that gear just to beat you, and that means something. That's special. So seeing what that could offer to a game like Path of Exile 2 is exciting. I got kind of burned when I recently talked about this. It was like the top 5 things I want to see in Path of Exile 2, but a lot of the stuff I was asking for was Path of Exile 1 things. And I should say, like, I don't need Path of Exile 2 to just become Path of Exile 1.5. I definitely don't want that. I want new, vibrant, fresh, interesting systems. That's what I want. But I can't deny when something really works well. Like, if that layer was applied to the game that I love, it'd be great. And I don't want grinding gear games to just have a monopoly on the ARPG space. But I kind of feel like they're starting to deserve it because they're outpacing everybody else. They're killing it with their updates. It's disgusting what these guys do with the time that they have. And so hats off to them. Like, if this isn't the next, if Path of Exile 2 is not the next modern ARPG, I'll be surprised. And what the team at Blizzard would have to do to be competitive, I'm excited to see if they can pull it off. I like killing demons. I love hanging out with Tyrael. I think the whole character design there is great. The philosophy of a Haradrim in Sanctuary, that's where it all started for me. So I just don't have, like you mentioned earlier in the pod, I don't have the desire to pull any kind of trigger in that game right now. They're not doing anything competitively to try to combat what Grinding Gear Games is doing. I think they're targeting maybe a different kind of player base, but I don't know who that is because PoE 2 is meant for like a new ARPG player too. So I know this is a PoE 2 podcast and a PoE 1 podcast, but that's just, I had to get that out there. It's like this company is killing it with their updates, and I'm so excited for it.
They are, and if we just take a step back, right? Because like it is a Path of Exile podcast, but what are we comparing it to, right? The other action RPGs. I mean, that's literally not necessarily that's not every topic that we talk about, but like you bring a very valid point. Like, what is Diablo 4 doing? Like every season, insert power here, insert reputation grind here. It's been every season.
Perks, insert perks here. It's perks now, not powers. They changed the word.
Oh,
perks.
It's just like Twitter will always be Twitter. Okay. All right.
Yeah, sure. I know.
It's that simple.
I try to call it X. It feels alien. Yeah.
Right. Right. And then, but it's the same. It's the same thing with Last Epoch for 3 seasons. This is the 3rd season, but it's really we click on this version of thing. Said monster pops out, and then we have a system behind it. Right. It's 3 seasons in a row now that it's been that.
Yeah. You only have to look at what Grinding Gear Games does for one league to appreciate how a different system being added to the game looks instead of just lipstick on a pig and changing it, right? They really give you something new.
Well, I'll give it hats off to Diablo 3 because as long as you enjoy the play style of it, right? Each season was relatively unique. Like they brought something, some system or some new thing in almost every season, maybe not every season, but almost every season. But you had to enjoy the game to begin with, right? So it's one of those, like, if you didn't enjoy the game, you didn't enjoy the game. But they did do a good job at that same concept. If you go back and you look at the different seasons in Diablo 3, it wasn't just the same system rinsed out with new colors, right?
Yeah, to me it was, because the game was just jokes. I didn't like it at all, so I just can't get there. But if you say so, sure. I played it doesn't matter. That game can rot as far as I care. That's not Diablo that I know at all. I'm so sorry.
No,
I have
it's
a disdain for this big time. It just not that game's not for me. I wish it was, but it wasn't. So
right. No.
yeah.
You do not have to apologize. Apologize for nothing. Okay. The bottom line
Didn't
is,
hit.
it's just simple things like that make you realize how damn good GGG is. Now, this is the first patch that we're getting an actual league mechanic. It's basically the Abyss League, right? To their new makings, which is kind of like Betrayal and Abyss tied together, but
It is
with the veiled
modifier. Yeah.
the veiled modifier. Well, it's the currency that we can add the veiled modifier, right? Are we?
Oh, you're talking about the abyssal gem or whatever it is. Let me see.
Yeah, whatever it is,
okay.
I don't know. It's basically just a downright power add, rather than in like Path of Exile 1, it was like a trade, right? So you would have to lose.
In what way?
Well, when you're using the currency on a veiled item, you could be giving up one of the other affixes already on the item, right?
No, you don't give up. You add in a veiled modifier in place of a regular prefix or suffix. That's what you would do.
Okay, maybe I'm remembering that wrong. Okay.
Because I was crafting with Veiled Chaos and stuff.
Right.
Like, it adds a modifier, and you can kind of force which one it adds. But that was what you were doing. It didn't take something away. That never happened.
Okay. Anyways, with the comparison of that, we'll throw that back behind the couch. Next thing that I would love to discuss is your idea of the new support gems and how they function with the current skills, right? So not only did we get the release of being able to use the same support gem on multiple skills,
yeah,
we also were getting new tiers of support gems.
Yeah.
And we're also getting, you could say, unique support gems.
Yeah. Lineage support. Okay, so this is huge. This one is like, it took us this long to get here, but that just speaks to how impressive this is. Two things really quick. I don't know that I need an early access game to have a league in it. That doesn't seem right to me, because people who didn't pre-purchase this game are going to miss out on this league. I think that's a little bit too bad, and that's how I feel about that. I just think they should, I don't know. I think there's a better way to deploy that. I get from a company's perspective why you would do that. Maybe some more people try your game, even though you give it away for free. They buy it, they have a good time. That's cool. But a new league in early access, it's in early access. Okay, let's talk about support gems, okay? So the fact that you give me additional support gem use on every single skill now is a complete paradigm shift for every build that we've had so far. And it's not even close. And then you add in this lineage support, which is crazy power in addition to what you've already got. And you nerfed some of the skill damage, that's fine. Support gem will more than make up for it. My thoughts are, some of those builds that people used to play that were fringe, and we all kind of said like, yeah, cool build, guy. Like, even though you're out here casting Spark and annihilating, but that guy had a really cool concept back there. Today, well, I should say tomorrow, he's going to get a chance to make that build shine where he couldn't before, because he wasn't allowed to make Cold Snap just pop, right? Now it's going to be something that he could do in addition to like a Winter Orb. So I guess this long-winded answer is, this, when I said before, is the most diverse the game's been. This is exactly what I'm talking about. And I don't know anybody who has any idea what the best build's going to be when suddenly all these different support gems come in to enhance the skills together in unison. And in addition to that point, this is going to allow you to play something fringe and maybe be competitive with the meta where you had no chance to do that before, like no chance. Now it might be so damn good to party with one other guy with all these different support gems and see what that combined damage does, where maybe before it was never even a thing because you had to use that one skill. I don't know how this isn't going to be completely bonkers for a lot of skills out there, and I think it's really good. I think it's really good overall. It's fucking nuts. That's what it is.
Fucking nuts.
Yeah, sure. It's incredible diversity. Big fan. I have no idea how to really digest it. I've got a build ready to go for the community, but Dude, it's diverse as F. It's crazy to try to parse all that benefit, and I absolutely will use AI to try to figure that out. But I don't know
Right.
if we're gonna get anywhere because it's just a lot. It's a lot of good, actually, ton of good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it definitely is. It's a huge W in two ways in my eyes, at least two ways, probably many more. But one way is it actually promotes using combos now, because before you just took all your bang and put it in one skill because
Yes.
that was the best way you get the highest damage for that one skill. Then you have this combo skill that now, okay, well, now I got just the crappy old leftovers to put in it. So it was like, okay, well, it's not really worth using that as a combo before, as to where now I can put the best bang in both of those and actually combo and just maybe blow the whole game up, right? And two, is that not just combos, but even small things like maybe I'm using 2 or 3 cooldown skills. I can now use, what is it, Ingenuity, I think, that reduces the
Yes.
cooldown.
Yes.
I can use that
It's a
support
second wind,
gem
yeah.
in each skill, reducing the cooldown. And now I don't have to choose between which cooldown do I want the most. Do I want the largest or do I want the shortest to be? So it's a win in two different supportive ways. And I love it. I absolutely love the fact that it's going to bring out so many different builds that we could never have put together before this change.
I also think it poses a problem. The problem is because some supports are just better than others, and some supports are just really damn good, like Martial Tempo, like Stomping Ground, like Lacerate. There's not a better support gem for leveling, in my opinion, right now than Stomping Ground and probably Lacerate. Could be Brutality early on, hard to say. That those two are gonna outweigh anything else I do. So it's not until I get some skin in the game where I can start to just feel them out that I'm gonna even want to try to do that. When it's so competitive in that support gem space that I'm just gonna take all the really powerful shit and do really good. And I don't know that it's a good thing to test. I don't know that the vast majority of people are going to test enough. I don't think so. I think they're going to rely on build guides. I think they're going to rely on information that they hear about instead of testing, and that's what the outcome is going to be. But to the person out there that tests, you have such a bountiful harvest at your disposal. There's so many cool interactions that I hope I test, others test, and we come up with something vibrant that didn't exist before because this system allows for it. But do you know what I'm saying with the problem? Like, some are just too efficient. They're too good. And why would I not take that? Like,
Yeah, well,
what am I leaving? Yeah.
and I think that's going to be something that will have to be balanced throughout the testing phase, right? So after, it probably won't, it's not going to be mid-league for sure, but they'll definitely look at the usage rates. They've already shown us that they're looking at 94% of people that picked Ranger picked Deadeye. Why? Okay, they'll figure that out and they backtrack, right? Which kind of baffles me why Deadeye didn't get nerfed, but we'll get into that another time potentially. But with just the supports, I think it's a huge W in both ways. You're right, but it's no different than like having a meta, right? Maybe they'll just shift the gems up later to where it is more viable. Depending upon what you're doing, it might be better to take this gem, or what skill you're using. It might be better to take this gem, and vice versa. So I think it does pose a problem, but I still think that it's more or less a big W on both fronts. But lack of testing, that's people they gotta follow their build.
So you just said like it's a meta thing. People are going to always kind of go to the best thing because it's the easiest. It's the path of least resistance.
No.
100%.
Yeah,
No, that's
right.
true.
Yeah,
Like,
that is true. But that's what I meant in that term, is that it's similar to that style, right? Where the gem, there is just going to be a better performing gem.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, a more efficient route, path of least resistance. So what I think would be great is if we're all doing the same thing. We're all doing Stomping Ground. We're all doing Lacerate. And then on that third choice, Spooker comes up and says, okay, I want to have like added fire damage because it looks cool. And it's not really all that less damage, but it looks cool. And so that person wants that fire warrior fantasy. He can do that, not at the detriment of really losing that punishing damage he should be doing, and also gets to appreciate that beautiful, vibrant fire visual. Like when we're at that stage where you can fulfill the class fantasy from a visual audio cue without punishing your character too much, because the gems are pretty cool. I think that's a good place to be. But that also, on the other side of the coin, kind of gives you that the Incredibles syndrome effect, right? When everybody's super, nobody is. So it's like, is there really a difference? It's like, that's the balancing act that's so damn difficult to get. But I think we have to be closer to the syndrome effect where everything's good because it feels good and it's not too much of a loss on your character's experience completing game content. Like, you might be the coolest wizard, Harry, and you might be, ice everywhere. Everything's frozen, but nothing dies. You can't enjoy that because shit kills you, right? And so you will go to the fireball guy that casts one and burns everything. You're like, because I can't really freeze it. It's cool that hopefully now with the support system, you can freeze that and it's badass. Like, I hope that's what happens. I believe that's what's going to happen. And that will be the best diverse experience thus far. Can't wait. Support gems are fucking huge. Huge.
Yeah, absolutely. There's still like 2 more points we haven't even touched on, right? They have the different levels of supports now too. There's like a tier 1 of that support, a tier 2. Yeah. And then I think
tier
that there's
5, yeah.
It goes all the way up to tier 5?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, okay.
That was the image they showed, right? Yeah.
Maybe. I'm not I don't remember specifically. I just know that like you have different tiers, but I think generally speaking, like the tiers as you go on, or is it just the later one that you might trade something like instead of just...
No, it's 5 tiers, yeah.
Okay. But so they generally incrementally get better, but when you get to the higher tier, maybe you'll stick with tier 4 because tier 5 just kind of changes the functionality of it. I remember them saying something to that effect.
Yeah. Maybe, but I doubt it. Like where you're going, that's hot shit. That's pretty cool. Like you don't want to level it, but when you see the benefits you get from a level 5, it's like, oh, I want that. Like that always kind of coincides with what it was doing anyway. But it'd be interesting if what you're saying is true. That's kind of neat because then I got to be aware. And then like, oh, I over leveled it. Fudge. Now I got to go back in and relevel another one, sure, or just trade for one that's level 4, right? It's kind of cool.
Are they leveling?
I don't know how they level yet. I don't know.
I thought it was just that you could choose to cut the tier 1 or the tier 2 or tier 3, 4, 5. Obviously, there's going to be level requirements behind it, right? As you get later, the higher tiers are going to be the level
totally makes sense. Yeah, you probably just get a level 5 support gem and you just like make it. That's probably true. Yeah. That's probably exactly
so. Okay. Yeah. So with that being said, I think that's really cool because from my understanding is that when you get to the higher tiers or maybe just the last tier, it kind of changes the functionality a little bit as to what that support's doing. So it might be better to stay with the tier 4 version of that style gem versus leveling it to the 5, depending upon what you're doing with your build. So I'm excited to kind of see how that works and how that goes. And it's like, am I really not going to just pick the highest version of that gem? Yeah, it might change the base function, but I mean, for sure, it's got to be better, right?
Maybe not, and that's what's kind of exciting. Yeah.
Exactly. So outside of that, we still have, what is it? They said 40 unique skill gems that are coming. And
lineage support gems,
support gems, yes. Yep. And my thought is I don't remember whether or not they said specifically whether or not you can use more than one. Now, I do know that you're limited to one of those lineage support gems in a skill, but I'm not sure if they said whether you're limited to use more than one lineage support. Maybe if you're using it on a different skill.
You can use as many different lineage support gems as you want, but you can't have 2 like of the same.
Oh, okay. Then that might have been my misunderstanding. Okay,
that's because we would all just stack the best one and have a good time. Congratulations! You now have like,
of course,
yeah.
So, how do you feel that lineage support gems are going to affect how we currently play?
It's going to be insane. That's how I feel. And I'll tell you why. There was one item already that in Dawn of the Hunt was pretty insane called Choir of the Storms, and it removed the elemental resistance from pretty much everything great. That exposed many builds to just clearing content that it maybe didn't as easily. And now there's a gem that allows you to invert it. So if one of the monsters is 40% lightning res, now it has negative 40, which is already like brutal to do in Path of Exile 2. Like appreciating negative damage isn't really a thing in this game like it is Path of Exile 1. So you're going to give these guys the Fat Lip special even more than you did before because that exists. That wasn't even an option before. Getting additional skills, that can happen. There's so many unique things. Additional copies like of Spell Echo coming through with a Zarox. It's like, what? So how do I think it's going to change the game? Or do I think it'll have impact? Yes to both. It's going to be very, very good. But the problem is, you might be watching a content creator's guide. Hey guys, this is my brand new Comet build. It does all 3 kinds of damage. It has remnants out the ass, and it absolutely shits on the game. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe on the video. Yeah, he goes through the guild, right? But the thing is, this guy has a 400 divine unique lineage support gem that the build just sucks ass through if you don't have that.
Yep.
That's going to start to happen. So I don't want to make a build like that. I want to make something that doesn't include it. But if you have that Rolls Royce sitting in your garage, fire up that garage door, take that sucker for a spin because this will be nuts. That's going to start happening. It's just like the awakened gem experience, right?
Yep.
Where like once you get that, holy shit, what a difference, right? And so I think that's what's going to happen. And I could be wrong because no one's played this, but I don't think so. I don't think so. Like it just seems crazy, like crazy good.
Well, I mean, the fact that they've added 150 notable passives on the passive tree. They've added a tremendous amount of support gems. They've adjusted a lot of skills and ascendancies.
Attribute reduction on gear so you can wear it even easier, and you can put those points into other things to make your character a bit more diverse. Like there is a ton of amounts. A cornucopia of adjustments here, yeah. Like there's tons. It's not the same game. It's not the same Path of Exile 2 anymore, and that's really, really cool.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I almost feel like we are getting not necessarily a new class, but new builds. I mean, because this is going to shake everything up so bad. What you thought you had working previously may still work, but now it can potentially be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 times better. You know,
maybe that's a high multiplier, but I agree. Like if I look at the Blood Mage Spark build I played, I keep talking about this one build as like one of my favorite builds. It only got better.
Yeah, like, no, you're absolutely right.
Only got better because the Blood Mage now gets 2 additional ascendancy nodes, so it's harder to kill. Great. Like what? Like, okay.
Yeah, no,
Cool.
I completely agree. But that also with a lot of things just getting better. I mean, we had some nerfs. Some people call them nerfs. We don't really know how they fundamentally work, right? Because we just don't have all the information yet.
Like what are you talking about?
Well, just in general, you know, we lose things like, for example, Giant's Blood. We losing that is we consider that a nerf. We're losing the amount of health we get from strength, but we also don't know what notables that may be on the passive tree to make up that 630 life. We just don't know, right? So yes, we feel like we got hit with some nerfs and some things, in which we did. Of course, I won't deny that, but there may be another way to make up for that nerf in another manner somewhere in the game, whether it's a support gem, a skill choice, or just a flat passive tree or ascendancy that's been changed or modified as well. So with that being said, though, that a lot of skills of just getting better with more accessibility and all that stuff, how do you think that's going to affect what little end game we already have in Path of Exile 2?
I guess that depends on how much fun the campaign is, right? Because with Act 4 coming out and these interludes coming out, if you don't like those, you're probably going to tap out after the first playthrough, right? Like if the ascendancy you chose, we've seen the player data on this because GGG kind of showed it. If they nerf a skill halfway through the league, a player, person A, is more likely to just say fuck it and walk away because he doesn't want to put in the work or she doesn't want to put in the work to go back to where they are with that character. It's not worth it. They took away all their value. So if Act 4 and the interludes aren't fun, it doesn't matter. People aren't going to remake another character. So I hope that changes. Like, I hope that the attitude towards that experience changes, because there's a lot of diversity now. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff to try. And it shouldn't just be what a streamer shows you. It should be what you want the class fantasy to deliver for you. And sometimes that's a hard pill to swallow, because you follow build guides all the time and you're not sure where to go on your own. And that's totally fine. That's okay. Live your life, play how you want to play. But there's something interesting about making your own build, putting your own stamp on it, and really enjoying that and seeing it come to fruition. That's kind of like the magic of an ARPG, is watching your character become god tier and just dominating from nothing. And I think the hero's journey is the most exciting part. So sorry with the long-winded answer again, but I think that Act 4 and the interludes better be fun, because there is a lack of endgame, and the Abyss stuff will be cool, and getting Fracture Orbs is cool, like Cleansed and Corrupted Zones again is cool, and Sanctified Orbs, or whatever they're called, that's a really cool crafting thing. There's more to do, and I hope that people want to engage with it with a diversified sort of experience. Like, I will for sure. So, how about you?
I absolutely think that the end game, if they don't adjust it in some manner or another, we already had builds and things that were just one tapping the whole game. So this is one of my problems, which I know will hopefully get fixed, because it is early access, and that's another topic that I would love to dive into, but I know we're running short on time. If they don't adjust it in some way, like you said, a lot of people will play through the campaign, and if they don't like the campaign, that's it, right? They're not going to want to try different builds. Once they get there, they get done, they move on, right? And then you have the other people that, okay, they love the campaign, so they do the campaign, they get to the end game, they smash all the end game content, because all this power, the power creep that we get, and then they continue on the next character journey, right? But as to where the first player just, all right, that's it, I'm done, moving on. So I think that they need to give the players some sort of chase item or something to chase that's in the end game that's worthwhile going for, like PoE 1 and Tier 0 uniques, right? Where you can't just destroy the content. You have to build up that power high enough before you're going to be able to do this content. And right now, if some not notably, that's the wrong words, if some things don't change in the end game, we're going to get that power and we're going to be able to one tap the whole game again. And then what's the reason for me to chase? Like, what is there for me to chase after that? If my build destroys everything, I don't have anything to chase after. So I feel like that can potentially be a problem, but because they're gearing Path of Exile 2 towards a more casual player base, I don't know if we're going to see that in the early access, or if that's going to be something that we get developed after, the game's released and launched, like Path of Exile 1 has had 13 years to do.
It's all fair points. Yeah, I would hope so. Like, I think that the Lineage supports are that chase. I believe the drop rate will be low. I think the trade value is going to be very high in Divines, and that's fine. That's the chase. That's what they have for now, and I think that will extend our enjoyment for the full 2 months, and then the hype for whatever the new Path of Exile 1 League is kind of hits, and then all the other ARPGs start propping up as well with their updates. So it's going to be busy, but I think you raised some good points. They have to diversify the end game, and speaking transparently about that means more bosses for each end game event, like Breach, like Ritual, like Expedition. Like, give me all those bosses, get the animations done, let me chase items from those specific guys, and that just kind of diversifies the end game portfolio. And they already have the models, they just have to get through the work, get through the slog of putting them in the game, and then the game's going to be even more incredible. So yeah, that's what I think. Very good points. Yeah.
So I got 2 more points that I would love to talk about, if you don't have any more to talk about as well.
I'll just go ahead. Yeah, sure.
I love your input just as much as you love mine. So first one is, we got to see the Abyssal content release, right, for the League mechanic. And they say during the live reveal, at some point you get this finger, I think it was, that you get to use that will allow you to jump in to the abyss where your character or something happens. And they said, we'll leave that to you to find out. So what do you think that innuendo that they left for us, what do you think that is, and what do you think they're going to do with that?
Oh, I imagine you just jump down, you fight Kulimek.
So you think it's just a boss fight?
Yeah.
Okay. And that was kind of my thought too, but I was kind of hoping maybe it was something more. Maybe we do actually get some sort of player power going down whatever it is we're doing down there. That would be awesome.
I think it's just Kulimek, and that's fine. Like, when you get all these other things, you get the Arbiter of Ash. So it's just another, like, the last time they did this, they said, we're not going to go in there. We want you to open the door and find out what it is for yourself. Well, same thing here, right? So we got some cool area. It's going to be Kulimek. It's going to be hopefully badass, and he's going to kick my ass, and I'm going to kick his ass, and then we're going to go back and forth and see what he drops. And then we go from there. Whatever he drops, I trade or I use, and that's it. It's but it's a new boss fight, and I hope that when I fight him the first time, he lives long enough for me to see some mechanics, because I hope I rip this game a fresh new one, but I kind of want to see the animations too. So yeah, that's what I think it is.
Yeah, I agree, and I think GGG has done a phenomenal job with their animations and how they're working on the game. I'm loving it, and I can't wait to dive in tomorrow. And I'm super stoked. With that being said, tomorrow is the day. It's literally 20 hours and 20 minutes from now is the launch time. With that coming, they're doing something that they haven't done before. It will be free to play for everyone. How do you think that's going to affect the servers, and what do you think, if you were to just guess, a wild guess, maybe if you want to do some background information search real quick, what do you guess that the peak Steam numbers will be tomorrow after launch?
Last season was 300K at launch, right? 350 or something?
Somewhere around there, right? I think it was a little lower than their first launch,
which was 550,000 or something like that.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Yep.
So this is just Steam. Well, Steam's PC only and it's free. So I'm gonna say I would like the game to do 700,000. I think that'd be cool. I don't know if that's realistic. I think you get like those kind of numbers when it actually goes like whole games out free to play. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna throw out 551. I want it to grow a little bit. I think that content creators, media influencers, people like you and I talking about it, hopefully drums up some interest and gets people just to try a fun game that we like. I don't mind server queues. I hope the servers can handle it. If they can handle 550, they can definitely handle less. So I want them to be tested to handle some more. Outside of Steam, though, like if we take the global collective of all the console players as well, I hope we hit a higher number, because that means the game's growing and there's interest for it. The game is getting better and people need to play this great game. Mm-hmm. And this is a great opportunity to do so. Unfortunately for people, and good for Grinding Gear Games, on Monday, when the servers wrap up being free, they do store the data of your characters, which is good, but the fun's over for you unless you shell out a couple bucks. So that's kind of like the first hit's free and you got to like get after it after that. So it is a W overall because you get to play. I think that it's tough if you can't continue on, because I've lost sleep and I will lose sleep after the league launch. I just think that the game is getting better, then the numbers should improve. And I suspect that'll be the case. Yeah.
I completely agree. My personal theory of numbers that will reach on just Steam, I think because it's a free-to-play game and it has been so highly anticipated, and I think the word's been spread over tons of people, I wouldn't be surprised if we actually hit a 1 mil mark on Steam. I would not be surprised. I know it's high, and it's probably just me choking on that hopium copium, but I think that the game is so good that if you were waiting for it to go free to play it, and you're still like, no, I'll just wait till it's fully free, you should give it a try, because right now, during the EA, you're going to get an experience that might be completely different when the game actually launches. And they're kind of proving that with this particular patch 0.3 because they've changed so much. What like I said earlier, what you were playing before 0.3 might be completely not the same when you log in for 0.3.
Yeah, if they hit 1 million, that's really, really good. The genre itself is one of the most enjoyable that I ever played, which is, big surprise. You're listening and watching us talk about it, but when I play a single player game, it's one and done. Then it's like the rerun of the game, like +1, like Elden Ring kind of thing. That doesn't really keep me invested. Neither does Monster Hunter. You can add one new monster. It doesn't really change the entire game. I think it's great. But the ARPG does something special with that loot pinata. Like, I'm always pulling on the slot machine, and that makes me want to play some more. So anybody that kind of enjoys that experience of pulling the slot machine and gambling a little bit with loot is going to like this game. And the fact that it's free is a good window of opportunity to try it. Honestly, man, I hope the community grows. I think this is a great game to grow with. I think it's beautiful. It's vibrant. It's visually dense in multiplayer. That's one of the big problems I have. But outside of that, they're doing a great job. The guys work hard, and they deserve to get all the success that they get because this game's killing it. It's just super fun.
I agree. Is there anything?
That's a feather in the cap for me. Yeah.
No,
Is there anything with that?
I was agreeing. I agree. Is there anything else that you'd like to discuss before we wrap it up here?
There's one thing. So this is the Audible plan, right? So I plan on League starting Stomping Ground, Lacerate, or Brutality, Martial Tempo on Disengage because it cheeses the ape. And I hope it still cheeses the ape in Act 3. If it doesn't, I'm going to find out the hard way. Yeah. We don't know. Like, they didn't say that it doesn't. So Disengage is a really clean mechanic to escape that lethal moment. I think Shield Charge is going to be ridiculously strong, bonkers nuts. I'm definitely playing that. The thing I wanted to add was an Audible game plan. If it's true that Stomping Ground suddenly sucks, or that support gem is not tier 1 anymore, it becomes like a tier 2, that means that my entire leveling strategy is bad news, and so I got to switch it up. And I would hate to have to go like lightning arrow, lightning rod, like everybody else is going to do. I may try to go into like a spark leveling setup. I might do that, and again, I'm very familiar with that. That's fine. And the whole Sanguimancy thing on Blood Mage, getting that for free is huge. I don't want to change that too much. And the fact that you get, with the update on the Blood Mage, the way that they changed it, you get spell base crit 15%, and then you get the crit damage after. That just makes spell leveling all that much better as well.
Yep.
So I guess the last thing I want to add to anybody out there is, as Spooker said earlier, if they're modifying the patch notes daily, that means that, Stomping Ground could be gone. And there's been a lot of hype about it because it is that good. We tested it. It's so good. And like, it's so easy to just make a strength stacker. Start to think about, if that's not the case, what is your fallback plan? Do you have one?
I do. Something Fire Warrior.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go. So I'm going like all in on this, and I hope it works out. But have fun, get your snacks, get your drinks, right? Make sure you call in sick to work, even if you're not sick. That's bad advice. But have some fun. Play the game and enjoy it. Don't try to rush to the end game. Enjoy it. It's going to be there for months. It's not a 24-hour day. It's not just done in one. Enjoy the grind and test, and have fun. See what build feels good. That's all I got. Can't wait.
Agree. I agree. And with that being said, I think if you take anything away from this podcast and you've made it this far, the only thing that you should be worrying about in this next League launch is having fun, no matter how you do it. So to that, thanks again, Barricade, for joining us in another episode of Echoes in Exile, and we'll see you in the next one.
GG's. See you.